Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventure Travel Club television show. No, we're not in Moscow, even though this building looks like it. That's the Holiday Inn in Prague. One of the last vestiges of communism is a star all up on top. However, they didn't turn it red. I think they turned it a different color, huh, Betty?
Oh, I think they left it up there in symbol of Christmas.
Let me give you such a general information about our country and about the city. So if you came to our country before the year 1993, you would come to Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia has split in 1993 into two separate states. Czech Republic, which is here, and Slovakia, it's towards the east. Have you been to Slovakia coming from
Yes.
Poland? Yes. Yeah, so you know already about Slovakia. Well, our country is rather small. It has the population of just 10 million inhabitants. And the Prague, its capital, has the population of 1,200,000 about. Well, so you see that we are a very small country. Our population is something like the population of New York. But many people are famous also abroad. It's because during the rule of the communists, a lot of people emigrated from here. About 300,000 people. So in the United States, there are also some of them living. You might know, for instance, our tennis players like Ivan Lendl, Martina Navrátilová, who are living in the United States, or movie director Miloš Forman, who made the movie Amadeus, for instance. Have you seen the movie Amadeus about Mozart? So it was made by the Czech movie director Miloš Forman, who is living in the United States since the 60s. Or I'm sure that all of you know the former wife of Donald Trump, Ivana. She's also from here. Or hockey players, sure. After the Olympics, probably most of the people of US know our hockey players. The most famous ones are Jaromír Jágr, who is playing for Pittsburgh Penguins, and Dominik Hasek, who is playing for Buffalo. Yeah. Well, by the way, your Secretary of the State, Madeleine Albright, she's also from our country, but she emigrated already before the Second World War. So you will see that actually you have seen part of Prague already yesterday, the downtown of Prague, that's the old town. You will see that Prague is a very beautiful city. There is a big variety in here, because actually Prague was founded in 10th century, and since 10th century actually many buildings in different building styles have been built here.
Well, this is one big city, isn't it, Betty?
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think so too.
I like even though the buildings are really close together like that, I love the architecture.
There are also plenty of music festivals held here in Prague during the year. And every day, Prague is a very cultural city, so every day you have the chance to go to many of the concerts, which are given from 1 p.m. until very late evening. Here we are coming to very nice residential area. On the left-hand side, you see the residence of the U.S. ambassador. This residential area was built between First and Second World War by very rich Czech people. So this building, in which is nowadays the residence of the U.S. ambassador, it used to be owned by the man we called him Coal Baron. He owned a lot of coal mines in our country. By the way, the most famous ambassador from the United States after the fall of the communists here in our country was your children movie star, Shirley Temple Black. So she was here in Prague since 1990. You see that those villas, those houses on both sides of the road, they are used as the embassies or the residences of the ambassadors. The main area for the embassies is below the castle. There is also the US embassy situated. As I mentioned, Prague is a very beautiful historical city. In the middle of the city there is the river. Its name is Vltava in Czech, V-L-T-A-V-A. This river also appears in the symphony composed by Smetana, My Country. On both banks of the river there are two historical districts. These historical districts used to be the independent cities in the past. On this side of the river there is the castle area, which is called Hradčany, H-R-A-D-C-A-N-Y. HRAD, Hrad, means the castle in the Czech language. So that's the area around the castle. On the other side, we are going to see it as well. On the other side of the Charles Bridge, there is the old town, and next to the old town, there is the part of the city. By the way, you were yesterday in the old town. You have seen the astronomical clock on the main square of the old town square, and next red buildings built in 13th century. That's the convent of Saint Agnes. This convent was built in 13th century, in the mid of 13th century, but it's not used as the convent anymore. It's used as the art gallery. So on the other side at the moment, that's the old town. That's the village which was built in the beginning of our century in Art Nouveau style. Now if you look to the left, you see the second bridge there. That's the Charles Bridge.
Well, this is quite a beautiful drive as we go along the river, and we're going up now, which would be on our right-hand side. And Betty, I got a little bit confused because I thought the area that we're going was part of the old town, but it's not until we cross a bridge, which we're going to see the latter part of this show, and go over onto the other side where we really get into the old town. But, I mean, you know, this wasn't, where we're going wasn't too new.
No, well, I remember the guide saying something about there really isn't an old town. They're all old towns, so it's hard to differentiate the new from the old. Because
right.
I think they were all around the 14th century, somewhere in that area.
13th century, I think she said a lot of it was built, yeah. Anyway, we're going to listen more because we are going to a very interesting place.
Well, so ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the lesser town, or the small town of Prague. It's a very charming part of Prague. It's full of beautiful palaces and the churches. This small town burned down in the mid of 16th century in 1541. Everything burned down, and afterwards rich nobility settled down here, and they built very beautiful palaces in Baroque, in Renaissance and Baroque style. So you see already those palaces on the right hand, on both sides actually. Though most of these palaces are used nowadays as the embassies. So on the right hand side you could see the embassy of Poland, India and Belgium. And on the left hand side, the whole wall belongs to one palace. That's one of the biggest palaces here in Prague. It belonged to the general from 30-year war. 30-year war happened here in Europe from 1618 until 1648, therefore 30-year war. Actually, many European states have been involved in that war, and the general, very powerful and rich man, Wallenstein, built the palace which is on the left. Wallenstein Palace is used nowadays as the Senate. That's the part of the parliament. According to your terms, our parliament has two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So on the left, you see the Wallenstein Palace, which is the Senate nowadays. And on the right hand side, there are very lovely city houses, also dating back to the end of 16th, 17th centuries. Those houses are used nowadays as the apartment houses, and major part of them are used for the House of Representatives, also the Parliament. So here we are in the heart of the lesser town of Prague. We will come to the square, which is also linked by the noble palaces, and in the middle of the square you will see the biggest Baroque church here in Prague. It is called after Saint Nicholas Church, which was built in first. You don't see it yet, you know, you will see it around the corner. So the lesser town square is divided into two parts by the Saint Nicholas Church, which was built in first half of 18th century by the Jesuits. Well, the church where we are going, it's very close to St. Nicholas, very close to this square, the Church of Our Lady Victorious. The Church of Our Lady Victorious was built in the beginning of 17th century. It was originally Protestant church belonging to the Lutherans, but during 30-year war, actually 30-year war happened here in Prague, started here in Prague in 1618, as I mentioned. That's because since 1526 in our country, Habsburg family ruled. Have you been to Vienna?
Yes.
So you've heard a lot about Habsburg family. Until 1526, Czech families, royal families, ruled in our country, and then 2 Polish kings. In 1526, the second Polish king died in the battle in Hungary at Moháč. It was the battle against the Turks, and the Czech nobility elected the Habsburgs to rule in here in 1526. In that time, in our country, there was the freedom of the religion. We didn't have just Roman Catholic Church, but we had also the Protestants in here. Actually, in here, in our country, the Protestant religion came into being even before Martin Luther in Germany. Its founder was Jan Hus, in English John Huss. He criticized the Roman Catholic Church a lot in the beginning of 15th century, especially the moral of the Roman Catholic priests, and he insisted on communion in both ways. Thanks to it, he was burned in the stake by Inquisition, by the Roman Catholic Inquisition in 1415 in Constance in Switzerland. And then the supporters of Jan Hus, so-called Hussites, started to fight because the Pope sent the army to suppress the Hussite movement, the supporters of Jan Hus or John Huss. So they started to fight against the Crusaders, and we call this period of our history Hussite Wars. Hussite Wars lasted until the mid of 15th century, and its result was the freedom of the religion of our country. So since the middle of 15th century, Protestant church has been allowed here. Well, so now we are driving the Protestant church was allowed. We even had the Protestant king in here, elected in 1458. He was Czech, his name was George of Poděbrady. But then in the beginning of 17th century, the Habsburgs, the Austrian family, started to deny the rights of the Czech nobility and also the freedom of the religion. Therefore, the Czech estates uprised against the Habsburgs, and by this uprising, 30-year war started. During 30-year war, Protestant religion was prohibited in here. So also the Lutheran denomination was prohibited, and the Lutheran church was given to the Carmelites. And it was called the Church of Our Lady Victorious. So the church was given to Lutherans, and then the statue of infant Jesus got in the church. I will explain you more in the church.
Well, the church that we're going to go into, of course, what she has been explaining, evidently, has changed ownerships a few times from
one t'other.
From Lutheran to Catholic Church, evidently. And it's so funny because what's happened in other parts of Europe where we saw is a lot of the Catholic churches became Lutheran churches.
That's right.
So because of the Reformation. Anyway, this is not a very large church. There were a lot of other churches around this that we saw that were a lot larger, but this church, of course, which is dedicated to Saint Therese of Lisieux, was also the patron saint of the Diocese of Fresno. But in the church that we see here, this is the Infant of Prague, and that is a little statue right there that, of course, a lot of people did want to see.
They have a great devotion, many people, to the Infant of Prague, and they do decorate him. You see, he is ordinary times right now, so he's dressed in the green, but for all the seasons of the church, then they put new garments on him.
And you're right. There are a lot of people that do have a lot of devotion to the Infant of Prague.
Excuse me, we have an adoption center here in Fresno called the Infant of Prague.
Right. And here, of course, then we see the image there of Saint Therese, right? But this is a beautiful church inside, and I was going to say it's in its simplicity. However, it doesn't look too simple.
Doesn't look very simple, does it, with all that gold?
Right, when you see all of these side altars that are carved so beautifully and that are gilded, of course, with gold. But this is quite something.
Workmanship that we saw in Europe is well, I guess any time that you see works of art, you're going to have beautiful workmanship. But this was truly outstanding.
I think it really was. It was very nice. Of course, we noticed also that we got there just after a mass had been celebrated there, and of course the Carmelite sisters, who now are in charge of the church here, were there, and we could see them still. They're still wearing the full habits there. Just caught a couple of them right there. So, but this was quite beautiful, and it was a nice visit for us. They also had a gift shop in the back of the church too, and several of our people were there and purchased some items there. They wanted to bring home souvenirs, of course, from the church where the Infant of Prague is
Lily
displayed.
Garcia is from Farmersville, her husband doctor down there. She was so thrilled to be at this particular site.
Now, we mentioned that this was not one of the largest churches, and that church that you see right there in the distance is another church right on down the street. So I wanted to give you a look at what the church here of St. Therese looked like, and you can see it here. It's a smaller church. It's not grandiose by
dimension-wise,
yeah.
But inside makes
beautiful.
up for it.
And again, like you
yes.
said too, Betty, all of these buildings around here and outside, we get into these little squares, and you take a look around and kind of got a 360-degree look here at some of these buildings. They are magnificent. They are really quite beautiful.
This is my type of traveling. Going in these little side streets. And
you're certainly not at home, right?
Yes, I know that.
I mean, if we had anything like this, we would have torn it down a long time ago.
Isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
What a sad situation.
Sure.
Although I think we're learning now, Marv. It seems to me now
that was pretty late after you tear everything down that has all the history.
Well, what's done is done. So, but as long as you
you're
learn.
right. There's still a few that like the old administration building, the old
the college.
Which is now at Fresno City College. And there's a group that want to tear it down, and other groups that want to save it. And so that's a controversial thing too. As we were walking out, we saw here the ambassador of the island of Malta.
We did see him. Did
no,
you meet him personally?
No, just the building.
Oh.
And there was somebody famous who used to live in this building. And
I was thinking
but I
for
don't know
a
who it
minute,
was.
I
They're
missed
not
out
living there
on
anymore.
something. I thought when you said where was I don't remember meeting
You didn't
him.
meet him? You were walking down the road.
I
too
probably
fast.
was.
Anyway, that's the part of the embassy right there. And so we are going to now wend our way out of this particular area, which now this kind of sat on a hill. I mean, this seemed to be the tallest place there in Prague. And then we're going to go through these beautiful buildings and these archways, as you can see right here, which have a lot of history as well. But we're not going to bother to give you all of that. You have to wait till we go to Prague the next time and learn a little bit more about that. But when we cross this bridge, which is huge, I mean, it's just huge, then we enter into what they consider is the old town.
Now that's the Charles River, right? And the Charles Bridge.
I
think it's the Charles Bridge.
So Charles Bridge,
if it's the Charles Bridge, it must be Charles River.
Not necessarily. There was
Why wouldn't they name the bridge after the river?
They
or
named
the river
bridge
after the
king,
bridge?
I think. No, the thing was that there were a lot of bridges there,
Yes.
and I don't know.
But I bought some pictures on that bridge. I remember.
You did?
Yes, I did. But look at that. That's a
beautiful,
postcard. Isn't that something?
The whole. I mean, everywhere you aimed your camera, you got just beautiful shots here. You couldn't help but do that. I should state also that the bridge had a lot of statuary on it, and you're going to get a chance to see every single one of them. So you can say that I really experienced the bridge as we went across it. But look at the roof lines here, Betty. This is storybook time.
Amazing, a feat of architecture, it seems to me.
Beautiful.
Because they didn't have the instruments we have for building.
No, they probably did it maybe a lot better.
So this one is dedicated to the Order of the Holy Trinity, who bought Christians from the Turkish jail. Well, now if you look on both sides of the bridge, you will see down there the canal from the lesser town. It's between the canal and the main river, so it's the island. It is called Kampa, K-A-M-P-A.
Well, we can see here as we crossing the bridge that there's a little canals even before we get over the river. And Betty, there's your little water wheel down there. It was cranking away.
Isn't it, darling? I don't know really, though, whether that was utilitarian or whether it was just picturesque.
It looked like it was the original thing, so I would imagine it's turning something.
It's turning something. It turned me on. I thought it was wonderful. I enjoyed that.
Now, I have to admit, I don't know who all of these people are. Most of these are religious figures, but I wanted to get a shot of most of these as we crossed the bridge and went over toward the old town. That's just looking on the other side where
There
that
we're
canal.
in Venice.
Yeah, right. Looks like it, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. It's really quite beautiful. And this bridge was really quite large, but they didn't allow any traffic other than
No.
foot traffic, did
Which
they?
was
on this?
wonderful. It would have been a mess if they'd allowed
yeah.
cars over it.
You know, I went out the night before and went down here. In fact, there was a guy, I was trying to think, he was from German television, and he was shooting some stuff there at night because all of those, the statuary and, of course, the buildings that we saw there where we had been before up on the hill, those were all illuminated, and it was, I mean, it is spectacular. Yeah, at night. I mean, it is in the daytime, too, but at nighttime, it really comes alive, and you say, boy, I don't know, this can't be real. I mean, this looks like something Disney would have produced.
And it just takes on different dimensions because it has a jewel-like quality about it. Where in the daytime, if there's dirt around, you see the dirt, the cobwebs, and all of the
And all the
imperfections.
other tourists.
You know, yes. And at night,
Yes,
it's just
talking about the
you,
cobwebs, look there, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody forgot to clean this guy off here, I don't know, but
Well, the
yeah,
rain
there were
will
a lot.
come.
But, you know, it doesn't make any difference. It's still really quite beautiful. Just really quite beautiful. And it was a very warm day, as a matter of fact. Betty, what was this? I didn't hear the explanation. The people
Well,
had rubbed this thing. Look at it. I mean,
Yeah, you're going to live a long time. It's going to
Oh, is
give
that
you
right?
bring you good luck and long
you good
life,
luck?
and look at the color. I mean, it's
It's
just changed for the hand.
Yeah.
But there are many of those places in Europe where you
yeah.
rub a stone or put your finger in a hole or something. In fact, we did that in Jerusalem when we were in the dome of the mosque, where there was a place you could put your finger in, and it came out smelling like a rose or something.
well, there was also a place there too where supposedly I think had some hairs from the beard of the prophet. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. Well, that was here today, but it was here today, but gone tomorrow.
Anyway,
no,
it's
I don't
still
really remember
there.
that. Whereabouts?
That was in the
mosque?
Yeah, in the Dome of the Rock. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
no.
it was very, very interesting. Well, you're right though. There are a lot of places like that, and that have significance to the people, and there's some sort of history around all of that. But this is quite beautiful, as you can see
Peaceful.
here.
Look at that.
Isn't it though?
Uh-huh.
And now there is one of the tour boats there, and I think that would be kind of nice next time we go back to get on one of those and just sort of cruise down the river, no matter whether it's the Charles River or whatever.
Whatever it be, I'm laughing.
Whatever the river is.
Dr. Garcia down there in the corner taking pictures. He called me up one day and he said, "Betty, where did we go down this certain day?" He says, "I have all these pictures in my camcorder, whatever you call it on things." And he says, "And I don't know where we were." And it's sort of, it is true because so many
cover a lot of
places look
territory.
alike.
Yeah.
And they do look alike.
Sure.
Now it's okay. I hope I'm forgiven for saying that.
Well, I don't know. Prague, I thought, was just a very, very special place, and of course, never having been there before, but having heard a lot about it from an awful lot of people, say, yes, you are going to love Prague, and certainly did. It was just absolutely spectacular, as Betty and I have said so many times before, and that's the place, of course, that we would like to go back to too. I think it's one of the highlights
to
in
spend
Europe.
time.
Mhm.
Now, see, I liked Krakow. I mean, I loved Prague. Prague was great. It was so terribly crowded that you don't see that here now, but it was crowded.
Yes, it was, and of course, it was in the the height of summer, and it was also very unusually warm.
Yes.
While we were there too. As you can tell, a lot of people in shirt sleeves, and some people didn't even have their shirts on because it was so warm. But
I don't object to the warmth. I never did. Give me the warmth, not the cold.
Better than the cold, right?
Anytime. Yes, sir.
But this, it was a delightful day. And there were a lot of people there. Actually, and I have to tell you too, Betty, when I went out at night, the night before we did this, and we walked the bridge, there were lots and lots of people. And we're talking about midnight or so.
Are we doing confessions now?
What?
You said I have to tell you this.
Yeah, no, but I have to. There were a lot of people that were
Yes.
out at night, and
Well,
it was because it is spectacular and it is beautiful, and the buildings are all illuminated,
And it was
it's something to
comfortable.
see.
Yes, and it's comfortable.
Yes, and it wasn't warm.
Yes, uh-huh.
So you can see now we're getting over toward the other side of the bridge here.
Marv, I bought 2 pictures, actual etchings of the bridge And,
From that place
from
there?
the artist himself, and it was and really inexpensive. I haven't got them framed yet, but I do have them ready. So one of these days, I'll go buy the frames for them. But it's fun to have just a small item of the places that you've been to reinforce what you saw. And
You know, and I think that's true. The thing is, I try and buy a little painting
Or an
from some of
egg.
these places, or an egg. Yeah, well, I do have an egg collection. You would bring that up, wouldn't you?
well, of course,
Yeah, because no,
I
there
like to egg you on.
You did, but I'm a little sore about it because I saw an egg that was probably the most beautifully hand-painted egg that I have ever seen, and it was here in Prague. The price was a little expensive, and I looked at it at midnight. The store was open, and it was actually painted by art students, but
It was. You talked about
it was
it,
almost
yeah.
like three-dimensional. It was absolutely incredible. And I said, well, I'm going to come back tomorrow and take a look at it. Wrong thing to do, right?
Now, Deanna bought an egg there.
Oh,
in
she bought a
Prague, 'cause
beautiful
she
one.
also collects eggs, and
Beautiful
hers
one.
was very beautiful.
Yes, I saw hers, and I was very jealous. I almost broke it. No,
Oh, Marv,
no.
you
When
don't
I saw
mean
hers,
that.
no, I saw hers, and I said, you know,
You were happy for her.
oh, very happy for her. Yeah, I mean, it was great. Here's a little of the history on this gate or bridge, as the gate of the bridge that we can see here, and this was explained to us too. This has a lot to do with the history of Prague, and we won't bore you with all of those details right now either. But
Well, part
I
of it
do wanna
because
go
we
back.
don't know them
Oh, with the
either. And you
details?
know
Oh.
what happens? Now, our guide was very informative. She didn't have any notes, but sometimes it was just a little hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Because she got enthusiastic about her work, and
She's a very good guy.
and so sometimes you just couldn't quite use all of the beautiful things. I think when you were there, you could do it because I don't know, but it seemed like we had this on tape and it didn't turn as good.
Well, the thing is that there was so much. I mean, you learn so much in such a short period of time, and then trying to retain it sometimes is a little difficult.
Little difficult, impossible.
We have now crossed over the bridge, and now we are in the area, which is considered the Old Town. And on our next episode, we're going to get further into the Old Town and go into the main square and see some of the sites that we want to see there. And so we've gotten back into the bus, and we're going to go along and travel along the side of the river here and look back the area where we had just come from. And as you remember, we were kind of up on that hill back up there. And if you take a look over here to the left in just a moment, you'll see the Opera House. And there is a building that's a little further on down. We don't have time to show it in this episode, but it's the most modern building that they have in Prague, and we'll probably see that next time. But as we can see right now, the old Opera House over here and some of the statuary that's on top of that. And of course, that's just a magnificent building. Well, Betty, we have a lot of trips coming up, so if people want to give you a call and find out about what's on tap, they should give you a call at
488-7443.
And we will see you next time in Old Town. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.